Welcome to Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. This podcast is about the journey to a more sustainable future in order for us to be able to do our bit to achieve net zero. I'll be discussing a variety of topics with experts in their field in order to educate and increase our knowledge of clean energy, electric vehicles and the electric vehicle infrastructure. So whether you're an individual wanting to make a difference at home, a small business or a corporate, this podcast is just for you. So today on the podcast, I have Juliet Davenport, who is with me today on a very, very cold December morning. Yes. You've been fighting your way through the snow, haven't you?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you for joining me.
That's okay.
Thank you for joining me.
It's a new world where we can join anybody, even if it is snowing and we're snowed into our homes.
Exactly. Yeah, in the olden days, you couldn't do any of this, could you, love?
No, it's amazing.
So, I'm going to read through some of the things that I wrote because your CV is just amazing. You're a green entrepreneur and author. I wanted to say that first. Founder and CEO of Good Energy. You're an NED, so a non-executive director at Connected Curb. Chair of Atrato On-Site Energy. The president of Energy Institute, and you're a climate scientist and renewables pioneer and an advocate for solutions for climate change. That is just amazing. My God. So firstly, just thank you for joining me. And secondly, please tell me more about this, because do you use all 24 hours of your day?
Well, I have to say things have become a lot easier in some ways because we have the technology that we can input to that. We don't actually have to be physically in the same place as someone to be able to support people and be able to do things. So the book, for example, I wrote that with a co-writer, and we did that in 3 months. We did it all remotely.
In 3 months, that's not bad.
Well, there was a lot in there that needed to come out, so that's what it was.
Oh, that's fabulous. So come on, some of these things that you're doing though. So tell me about Good Energy to start off with. So you've been founder and CEO. It's quite a long time. Was it about 17 or 20 years?
It's about 20 years in total, I think. Yeah. So that was really, I guess, where I started. I mean, I to be fair, one of the reasons probably why I've done so many things is that when I first started off, so I did atmospheric physics, wanted to do something on climate change, and there wasn't a climate industry really at that point. This was like 20, 25 years, nearly 30 years ago probably. Wow. And so I ended up doing lots of different things. I actually did hospital radio at one point. Yes, because I thought maybe I'd be a DJ.
When I was about, this is a long time ago, when I was about 15, I helped out hospital radio as well, but that was when I lived in Halifax.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm not sure the patients particularly appreciated my style. It was a lot of Engelbert Humperdinck. I think lots of all the music is donated. There wasn't a lot of choice. So, but I did them at that. I worked in sports PR for a while, which was interesting, selling lotto football boots at one point, hilariously.
Oh my God.
But all of it behind the scenes, I was actually trying to do something on climate change, and eventually I went and worked in the European Commission for a while on policy, so I got some insight in terms of how energy policy worked. But interestingly, I got fed up with the institutional approach, and I got the opportunity. I mentored an entrepreneur in Greece, I think it was. He was German. We met in Greece, and we started talking about this concept of empowering individuals to actually make change. Because quite often what you find, I think, with financial institutions and actually with government institutions is they tend to move very slowly because they're very risk averse. And actually the individual quite often can make better decisions more quickly because they're making decisions on their own behalf. And that was really the kind of foundation of Good. And it morphed into something more than that. So it started with the individual piece, but it kind of moved into the community piece as well. So we worked with a lot of community energy generators. We worked with nearly 200,000 homes generating their own power. It became more of a business, a proper decentralised energy business as time progressed. But yeah, it was a lot of change. Right at the beginning, renewables were at 2% in the UK electricity mix. Must be closer to 45-50% today. So massive shift over that time as well.
No, that is really getting there, isn't it? Finally. Yes. How long do you think before we're going to be? Is there ever going to be a time when we're going to have, kind of nearer to 100%?
Well, this is a piece of work I did just before I left. So we worked with the Energy Systems Catapult to look at, and they do all the work for the Climate Change Committee, to look at if you push the UK to 100%, what does it look like? What do you have to believe to get there? You have to believe in energy efficiency, a lot of energy efficiency, which we're beginning to see this semblance of that happening now with what's going on in Ukraine and what's going on with the weather here as well. So we're beginning to see a little bit of that. Still could do some more, I would say a lot more. And then, in terms of renewables, we've got nearly enough to get to nearly 100% renewables, basically. You need some marginal fuels on the edge with carbon capture and storage. But the potential is there. There are quite a lot of hurdles in the way to get there.
And we were just talking about the heating system that you just got sat behind you in your room at the moment.
You can barely see it because it's white.
I know, and this is going to be on audio as well, so nobody will see that one. So explain. So you said it's a company called Herschel's, isn't it? That you're it is really, really cold. But you tell me more about
So my office is in the attic of my house. And although super insulated, did this last summer because I knew this winter was coming.
I need to talk to you about this super insulation because ours is rubbish. Go on, sorry.
But there's no heating up here. So I have to have some form of heating. So I decided to try out infrared. So infrared is really interesting. It heats you directly. It's like sitting in front of the sun. So when you sit in front of the sun, you're lying in the sun maybe in the summer, and then it goes behind a cloud. Gets super cold really quickly. That's because the heat you are receiving is radiative. It's not warming the air around you. So the air temperature hasn't gone up a lot, but you're getting the heat directly from the sun. And that's how one of these guys works. So the heater itself is giving off radiative heat. So it doesn't rise particularly. You can mount them on ceilings and it's a bit like a light. If you think about a light, it works in the same way as a light, but with heat instead of light.
Wow. So you can mount it anywhere.
Yeah.
That's just really, really interesting. I am going to definitely be looking at that because I'm not joking. Our house is cold and drafty and not super insulated at the moment. So this is part of my journey is to understand about, what can we do to kind of make sure that we lose less energy. Do you know what I mean? We keep what we've got and generate it in more efficient and sustainable way. So brilliant. What about, I'm just looking again. Tell me about your book.
So the book.
Tell me. So how did it come about and tell me what it's about.
Well, the book was really an idea of the team at Good because they kind of went, lots of founders write books. Juliet, you should write a book. And I went, okay, fine. And we came up with a kind of concept for a book, which was very much about how the story of Good Energy was built and all the things that happened along the way and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't feel massively comfortable with it, but it was okay because it's a very personal story. And anyway, we went to some publishers. They didn't particularly like it. We then came across Bonnier Books, who changed it. And actually, they changed it. I did a podcast while I was ago called Great Green Questions, which was really interviewing people about particularly difficult questions like, should I ever get on a plane again? And should I go vegan? And all those kind of things. And actually, so that's where the book came from. So the book took some of my experience at Good, for good and for bad, to be honest, when I've got things right and wrong. And we then go and talk to 3 or 4 other people, not necessarily in energy industry, in lots of different industries, about how they set up their businesses, what they did in this particular situation. And so we tell their story a bit, and then we come up with some very practical advice. So there's a whole section obviously on energy. How could there not be a section on energy? There's a whole section on office space, whole section on HR and how you can green your HR, whole section on money, obviously. And so there's lots of different pieces to it that help businesses think through the fact that every time a business does anything, it has an environmental impact. So how do you minimise that? And that's what the book is about. It's a real how-to book, and it hopefully gives, if people walk away from it with just one idea of how to green their business or how to green the business they work for, then it's done its job.
That's amazing. And you wrote it in 3 months.
Yeah, well, we'd done quite a lot of prep, to be fair, before that. But yeah, I mean, pretty much I had a great set of people who I could just pick up the phone to. Helena and I, who I wrote it with, we did a bunch of interviews. Helena pulled it together. I kind of structured it, if that makes sense. So I pulled together how each chapter would work, what the content was, how we pull all that piece together. Then Helena would sort of weave it together. And I would set up all the interviews and do all the interviews as well. So it was fun. I really enjoyed it, actually, because you get to find out, Liz, you get to find out things about other people's businesses, and you get to see the challenges. Because sometimes when you're running a company, and I think I felt this very much at Good, you're quite blinkered because you're kind of just getting on with keeping the company afloat is the first piece. And then once you're floating, how do you grow it? And then what else comes and hits you, like recessions and external events. And so you don't actually get that much time to go and chat to anybody else, unfortunately.
I know exactly what you're saying. For my business long term, I'd love to be able to be in the position where I can go and chat to people. But at the moment, there's only kind of 3-4 of us in the team, and it's only a small company, so it's just at the moment it's the kind of the pushing it forwards and not think. So actually, I'm saying that being able to do these podcasts has been amazing because I'm just learning so much.
Yeah.
Just great. So yeah, it's kind of opening my eyes to so many different things. Goodness me. So next question. Okay, how do you use your skills? The skills that you've kind of learned over the years, how do you use those to kind of do good in all these other areas? Like I say, connected curb and Atrato on site, because is Atrato is that a fairly recent?
Yeah, so that was a fund that launched last November, I think it was. First all-female board listed on the London Stock Exchange, which is very exciting. And we raised 150 million to go and put rooftop solar on commercial buildings.
Wow.
Well, I say we. Everybody else did the hard work.
You were up there.
I was there going, yes, well done. Cheerleading from the side. I mean, I guess, what do I bring to that? So I bring the experience of having done a lot of these things before. And so I work with CEOs, with boards, and with some of the other members of the senior exec team to kind of give them some insight of what are the watch outs they should be looking for, when you should push and when you should be patient, how to support people, how to structure meetings, because it's quite interesting. A lot of people, if it's the first time you kind of start to take the lead of a company, you don't really understand how to report what you're doing. And so a decent set of management reports. I mean, sometimes I do get frustrated with some of the things I do when I see 300-400 page packs of board packs. And for me, that's a real problem, because it means that am I starting to do everybody else's job? Because I'm going to have to, what I'd really like is a summary from the individuals of what they think are going. If I need to get into something, then you can do that through an internal audit. There's lots of different processes you can check from a governance point of view. But actually what you really want to do in a board meeting is sit back and go, where's this company going? And not nitpick. I don't think we should be, as a board, we should be getting into too much detail. We should be making sure we're heading in the right direction and the ship isn't going to hit an iceberg.
Absolutely. So what would you say the biggest changes are that you've seen over the last kind of 10-20 years? I know you kind of said about renewables, we're now at 45 to 50% renewables now, aren't we? Is that the biggest shift, or are there any others?
So I think if you look at, for me, if you break down climate, there are various areas. So the first one is actually research and innovation we were chatting about earlier. research and innovation for many years has focused in this country on pharmaceuticals, aerospace and automotive. And there's been very little money spent on either climate change or energy. That has shifted. So last year, Bayes published a paper which now looks at saying that this area of zero carbon is a priority for government in research and innovation. And I think that will make a big difference. Not immediately, but in 5 to 10 years' time, we will see new technologies coming through that we just haven't seen that innovation in the sector. I think the next big shift we've got to see is the infrastructure shift. So we begin to see it on EVs. So we're beginning to see that investment, but it needs to keep up the pace. And I mean, Connect to Curb's brilliant. It's one of the leading installers of EV chargers, but it's doing curbside. So it's doing the chargers for all those people who don't have drives and want to be able to charge on the curbside. So it's an accessibility as much as anything else play. But that needs to continue at pace if you're gonna really push through. And then sort of the heating market. The heating market is the biggest challenge, which is why it's exciting by looking at what if infrared, what does heat pump do? How do we get these technologies much more usable for people? And then how do you make energy efficiency work? I don't think we spent enough time on understanding how to draft-proof old houses. I think we need to spend a lot more time on that because actually, if you got rid of the attic here, so the reason I did this attic this summer was because the previous winter I'd been sitting up here and there's where we see where the wall goes to the ceiling. There was a big hole there, and it was literally I ended up sticking plastic tape over it to try and stop this gale that was blowing through this office. And I eventually ended up not working up here for like 3 months.
I'm not
surprised. It was freezing. And drafts are the worst thing, particularly in a country that's quite windy. So I think there's some good technological change coming on. We've got some big infrastructure challenges, particularly power networks. How do we get all this power offshore and everywhere? And sort of EV, we've got to still keep investing in those networks. And heat, technologically, we need to see some shift. But I think we're beginning to see those shifts. We know we need to do it. And everywhere I go now, not everywhere, but a lot of places you see people trying to set up new businesses, trying to deal with this challenge. And once government sorts itself out, we might get some direction. Because, I mean, and to be fair, Tories coming out saying they're going to support onshore wind. First time, I mean, when I was trying to do onshore wind in the sort of 2009 to 2012, I mean, unheard of, literally unheard of. But then slightly depressing when they go and say they're going to open a coal mine straight off the back of it.
Oh, I know. I was listening. I don't know whether you listened to the EV Cafe broadcast at all.
No, I hadn't.
Friday.
No.
So, and John Curtis was talking about that, and he just said, great for jobs, but there are still loads of jobs that are needed in sustainability.
Oh God, yes, completely.
And the infrastructure. Because why? Yeah,
400,000 per year is what we're going to need in terms of engineering capability to be able to deliver on clean energy. So we've got enough jobs, I would say. I don't think that's a challenge.
Yeah. And if you think about it now, there are skills that we're learning and jobs that haven't been invented yet,
exactly.
aren't there? No, so when my son's 17, so when he's gone to university and left, there will be new jobs coming up because there'll be jobs invented.
Yes.
You know, we didn't have sustainability directors previously, did we? You know, and all of a sudden, like, companies are now recognising these are the things that we need to be doing. This is what we're investing in.
Completely, but we're going to need capability of, we're going to need electricians who can install solar, who can install EV charging. We're going to need heat pump experts who can deal with heating systems. So we're going to need jobs across the spectrum, highly skilled jobs and very practical day-to-day jobs, which is so important for us to be able to deliver on this at scale.
I went to Solar and Storage Live a couple of months ago, and it was funny walking around. There's not many women, I'll say that. But also walking around. Now, I've worked in apprenticeships previously, and there were lots of kind of 20 plus old, young men kind of walking around there who were obviously there to learn about solar installation, which that to me was brilliant, because I just thought, actually, yeah, it'd be great if there were more girls there, females, but actually just to see the number that were coming in and just kind of looking around and seeing all the different products was, to me, was just like, this is a turn for me. This is a move towards where we need to be.
Yeah, and it is one of my ambitions to go and learn how to put a solar panel on a roof. I haven't done it yet. I really want to go and do that. So that is something. Maybe I should make that my 2023 New Year resolution. Is to go and learn how to install that. And what else would I like to install? Maybe understand a heat pump more, because they're bloody complicated.
Do you know what? I tell you what. When you've learnt them, could you come round to our house? Because we are looking at solar, and we're looking at heat pumps as well. So have you got solar and heat pumps? Is that things? Have you? How long have you had those installed?
Probably about 5 or 6 years now, I think.
And how many? And have you got battery storage as well?
No, so interesting. I had one of the very early battery storage trials, and it was incredibly frustrating because they wouldn't give me the data from my own house. Yes, I know. And I think what they were doing is they were using the battery to do grid services, and potentially actually using my energy to be able to do that and getting paid for it. So I actually had it removed because I didn't know what it was doing. And I think one of the things with batteries, the real challenge is that you've got to make sure you're giving the customer all the information they can have, so that they know what this technology is doing and why is it there.
I must admit, we've had a bit of a bad experience already, and I'm not going to say which company it's with, but I need to find a really good solar kind of installer, and somebody who can kind of give us advice on heat pumps as well, because we when you're really looking forward to something happening, and then all of a sudden then somebody, I don't know how many glass half empty people but this guy who came in was definitely glass half empty, and I was just like, oh, okay. So yeah, we're kind of, we need to, we're pushing
that out, and also, I mean, one of the other companies I do a bit of work with, something called Solivus, which is a flexible solar technology, which is very exciting because it means that for some rooftops you can't put traditional solar on. And they've created something, it's still in pilot phase, but they've created something called the Solivus Arc, which you can literally put on the drive.
I've heard of this. Yes. I think I read something on your LinkedIn page. Yeah. So go on. So what is it?
So basically it's not, so flexible solar is never going to be as efficient as a solar panel. So the challenge you've got with it is the cost versus the fact that solar panels now are relatively cheap. But obviously the installation of a solar panel, you've got to put scaffolding up to put it on a rooftop. And there's a bunch of other, I don't know whether you've still got planning issues. I think it depends where you are. But with this, you have to plug it into an inverter. So there's still an installation requirement. But if you've got space on a driveway or in a garden, you can just put it down and that's it. You don't have to attach it to anything.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to have to look into that as well. You've given me lots of information today. This is fabulous. Goodness me. So tell me what you're doing with Connected Curb as well, because how long have you been working with them as a non-executive director?
So I always forget how long I've been. I think I joined them about last March, April time. So, or maybe it was this April. Ooh, can't remember. Sorry. I mean,
so many things going on, isn't there?
There's a lot going on. So, I mean, for Connected Curb is now going through. So it was founder-led organisation. It's brought in a new CEO to allow the founders to continue to innovate and look at new marketplaces and new propositions. So in a sense, it's going from that kind of startup growth phase into a growing ups phase it's brought a lot of capital. It's brought some capital in from Aviva. I think we raised about 110 million into the business. So what that now means is now it's got to scale up and grow, which means you change the way you do things. So you do have board meetings, you do have board papers, you have approval and governance. So there's how do you do that without stifling the company's entrepreneurial spirit, basically?
Yes.
And it's a real balance to it. And also, how do you make sure the company as a whole embraces the green side of it? So I talked to them about the green startup, and it's like, what should they be doing as an organisation to make sure that everything they do has a positive impact? And they've got brilliant designs made out of recycled materials, and that's really important for that brand, I think. And as time goes on, that will stand them in better and better stead as they get bigger.
That's brilliant. If they're doing that, so where are Connected Curve actually based then? Whereabouts in the UK?
So they're based in London.
Okay.
They're based in London,
okay.
but obviously they develop across the whole of the UK. So they work a lot with local authorities. They have a great local authority proposition. They're installing, right away across the UK at the moment.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. You fingers in pies. There's lots. I don't know how. Do you need extra fingers?
Well, I mean, Good Energy was always quite a complicated
Fabulous.
business. So we had a lot of different businesses within Good, and so I thrive on it actually. Because I think what I really enjoy is if I'm constantly learning. Or mentoring, so that kind of constant sort of I'm helping somebody or I'm learning, and those two for me make me very happy.
I know what you mean, because I feel once I've learnt something, then I can mentor other people, because it's about being able to explain it in a kind of like in simplistic terms, isn't it? In order to mentor that person that you're talking to. I don't know about you, but I'm just like this sponge. Like now talking to you, I'm just like a sponge, taking it all in, and kind of it's just the information that I'm getting lately, on these podcasts has just been absolutely fantastic, and I'm really hoping that while we're talking, we're actually educating other people. And I don't mean that in a patronising way or anything like that. I mean, there's just so much to learn, isn't there, at the moment?
Yeah, or engaging. I mean, education is such an interesting word, isn't it? Because it comes across as being quite passive, and that you're delivering something. And I don't think that's the point. The point is talking experientially about what you've done. And quite often what I find is that maybe 90% of the things I talk to people about, they already know, or they don't need me to, but there's that 10% where I can just help them add a sort of another insight that comes from the experience that I've had.
So what I would call that in continuous improvement terms, because that's my background, I would call that value added.
Well, hopefully.
You are providing value-added services and value-added experience. You're giving your experience and sort of adding to what they already have, to kind of make it more rounded and I always think of it as a jigsaw puzzle with few bits missing. They've got a lot of the best of the bits.
Exactly.
You're adding in those little bits.
And your job is not to do their job. Your job is to give them almost like, I think it's a slightly meerkat moment, when you sit up and look around and make sure there's nothing else going to come at you.
I love it. So just to finish off, because it's been absolutely riveting and fantastic talking to you, honestly. If people want to find you, I know that there's one place where I can see you a lot, which is LinkedIn. Is that the main place to?
LinkedIn, or I also have my own website, which I need to do more work on. That's part of my current learning experience, which is Juliet.
You're not learning HTML as well.
No, not that yet. But I am trying to learn how to. Size pictures and things like that. I haven't quite got it down yet, to be honest, Liz. It's something I need like a summer break to be able to figure out how to do all of that. But so I've got a website called julietdavenport.com, and people can get hold of me through that. And LinkedIn, I do quite a lot on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a nice place to share, actually. People are interested, and there's some I find it a great place to get new news coming out. either our markets or other marketplaces. So yeah,
it's a really interesting time on LinkedIn. I think renewables and kind of anything to do with energy and renewables and electric vehicles and the electric vehicle infrastructure, lots of people are talking about it. And hopefully, and I've kind of said this to lots of other people, hopefully it will, all the information that's actually happening on LinkedIn especially, it's starting to stop, it's stopping people from being negative about all this stuff. There's some good things, there's some really, really good things. It's actually about people recognising that these are the good things. Yes, there are a few bad things, but actually there's lots of good things as well.
I agree.
But listen, thank you, Juliet. It's been absolutely fascinating to talk to you. So thank you again. And I'm going to finish off by saying goodbye to everybody else. And I shall see you all next time.
Thank you, Liz.
Thanks, then.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. You've been watching Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell icon and you'll receive all of our weekly videos. Thanks for watching. See you soon.